Hello again, everyone. It's great seeing you again, and thanks for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 12th day of February 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Moving forward, first graphic, sunrise Anchorage this morning, pretty vivid one there. Color-wise, good, some cirrus, higher type clouds, and looks like maybe cirrostratus a little bit there. Anyway, beautiful sunrise this morning. Anchorage, light winds, temperatures definitely milder than they've been for this month. Now we're back above 20 degrees around the area yesterday and continuing this morning. And a lot of sunshine this afternoon. And from here we'll go to the hazardous weather graphic. The St. Lawrence Island area, Bering Strait coast, they're still under the influence of a winter storm warning that's out for this evening and till midnight for snow reducing visibilities under a quarter mile at times, and winds gusting 50 or 45 to 55 miles an hour out of the northeast. And again, that's out until midnight tonight. It ends at midnight tonight, or they'll kick it out longer if it doesn't. And then down over the panhandle there, you can see the red areas for the greater Juneau area there for northeast winds gusting to 60 miles an hour, and that high wind warning is out until 6 p.m. Sunday. So kind of a windy weekend coming up there for the northern southeast coast, or actually the entire northern panhandle there. And then high wind warning also out for the Skagway area for gusts 60 miles an hour as well, with wind chill advisories go along with that for wind chills down to 45 below zero or 35 to 40 below zero or so. Otherwise, that's it for the watches, warnings, advisories around the state, just those areas there. And on the satellite imagery, you can see a pretty good storm. Stands out quite vividly there southwest of the Queen Charlotte Islands. That's spreading clouds up into the southern panhandle with, as of the last time I looked, it didn't look like any precipitation had started, but from about Dixon Entrance on down, the definitely heavier wind and precipitation there, with winds just eastern Dixon Entrance gusting over 50 miles an hour. One of the reports there. A little breezy on the southeast coast, 20 to 30 mile an hour winds in areas there, but even windier up in the northern panhandle. Cape Spencer seeing gusts today up to 45 miles an hour, or actually about 55 miles per hour wind gusts this afternoon at Cape Spencer. Eldred Rock seeing winds gusting 50 miles an hour in Lynn Canal there. And some locations, some of those other islands even had stronger winds than that. And Juneau seeing about 30 miles an hour, I believe, with some light rain going on currently there. With across the Gulf of Alaska there, across the ocean, Kodiak Island right under the cloud mass there. Light snow falling this afternoon with east winds gusting to about 30 miles an hour. And about 7/100 of an inch water equivalent. So that fell with 34 degrees Fahrenheit. It's kind of a wet snow, light wet snow, not much accumulation, especially down at sea level. And then also some moisture got up into southern Cook Inlet, southern Kenai Peninsula. Port Graham picked up 4 inches of snow during the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Seldovia about a half inch, and just about under a half, probably less than a quarter of an inch at Homer. Pretty light there, and cuts off right about Homer with nothing any farther to the north. And out over the Bering Sea, low pressure pulling westward there across the northern Bering, south of St. Lawrence Island, and that bringing winds 50 to 55 miles an hour today across St. Lawrence Island. And then kind of a break there along the west coast areas, but kind of a widespread area, light snow, nothing really significant. They're too heavy over the southwest interior. And that boundary really breaks up as it goes through the interior on out to the Arctic coast. And really, the storm system southwest of the Queen Charlotte is definitely the strongest one on the chart here, on the map. And rolling to today's outlook, we had snow and blowing snow, St. Lawrence Island, into the Bering Strait coast, and kind of windy with some snow and blowing snow also on the northwest coast, Point Hope, in that area, with the precipitation, the very light snow cutting off on the western Arctic coast. Otherwise, eastern interior clear and cold today, with weakening Arctic high pressure holding on there near Dawson, centered over Dawson, and the gradient between that high center and the low west-southwest of the Queen Charlotte's there, 986 millibar low, keeping the gradient tight enough to produce the strong gusty winds, resulting in the high wind warnings over the northern panhandle to White Pass. Otherwise, light snow Kodiak Island up into the southern Cook Inlet area, Kachemak Bay, and then areas of rain, about a quarter of an inch of rain falling eastern Aleutians today, windy and wet for the Alaska Peninsula as well into the Pribilofs, and still snow and blowing snow for Shimmy and Attu. And moving on to the forecast for tonight. Light snow possible, flurries possible, western Arctic coast, I'll call it, down to about Point Hope. Kivalina should escape any snow, just some clouds there with less wind, kind of gusty on the winds there around those western capes, Point Hope up to Cape Lisburne. And again, the blizzard warning, or the winter storm warning, ends for St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait coast. Probably will end by midnight, and it won't get kicked out any longer. Lingering snow showers over the Auckland and Kilbrook Mountains there in the southwest interior north of Togiak Bay, but whatever falls there will be light. And mixed rain and snow of the light variety also for Kodiak Island with less wind. And that storm system pulls eastward there, and that may nudge enough moisture northward for maybe some light snow to get into the southern southeast coast there. And stays windy again. We're actually through the weekend there for Lincoln Isle Glacier Bay area. And rain periods of eastern Aleutians. And lots of shower activity there. Blowing snow there for the area from Shimmy and Attu back toward the Komodorskis. And that pretty much holds through tomorrow. The low center, 954 millibars, just west-southwest of Nikolsky. So rain and wind with that, especially in advance of the front. Alaska Peninsula looks pretty wet and windy tomorrow up into the Pribilofs. Tends to become mixed precipitation there. Pretty widespread snow showers right up into the Bering Strait coast and beyond. And could see some snow and blowing snow, that trough up along the western Arctic coast there. Tight enough gradient, maybe 25 to 40 miles an hour on the gusts. And rain or snow, Kodiak Island, and that's increasing now, coming possibly into southwest Prince William Sound for light snow. Seward, Resurrection Bay could get some light snow, as well as Kachemak Bay, Kamishak Bay, but northern Cook Inlet on into the interior, not much change with dry conditions, light winds, northern panhandle. Now that storm moved eastward, so dry conditions, variable cloud, southern southeast coast, general decrease in the winds, though, even in the northern panhandle. And then the outlook for Sunday, that front continues to push northeastward there. It kind of weakens, but still that'll push some snow into the southwest interior. Periods of light snow possible. Kenai Peninsula now into northern Cook Inlet and along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Susitna Valley, Manusca Valley, basically snow-free, just clouds there. Chance of snow, better chance for Prince William Sound. And the Panhandle could see some mixed rain and snow along the coastline and out over the Bering Sea. A couple of lows there keep it kind of stormy, especially north of that front there. Yukon Delta, snow and blowing snow. St. Lawrence Island, probably drifting snow there. And for the lows tonight, single numbers, northern Panhandle lower to mid-20s to the south. And generally a little below zero in the Susitna Valley to a little above. Kind of either say 10 below to 10 above for south central Alaska, and into the minus 20s Copper River Basin, and up in the northeast interior, 15 to 35 below for your lows there, and out to the west, milder definitely, with lows in the lower 30s for the Aleutians and Bering Sea, and in some cases upper 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Tomorrow afternoon's highs, mid-20s to mid-30s for the southeast coast, just under 40 for Kodiak Island, mid-30s Kachemak Bay, Homer, Seldovia, lower 20s for northern Cook Inlet, Anchorage, Kenai, on up into Palmer, Talkeetna, say 20. Staying below zero, though, Gulkana and Glen Ellen, other areas of the Copper River Basin, but above zero, single numbers in the central interior, Tanana Valley, and even the Brooks Range, and not too far below zero for the North Slope and the Arctic coast, and upper 30s to near 40 for the Bering Sea and the Alaska Peninsula. Low Sunday morning, 10 to 30 for the southeast coast, quite a variation there. Mid-30s Kodiak Island, teen south central Alaska. Single numbers to Susitna Valley, 20 to 25 below Copper River Basin, 15 to 25 below northeast interior. And lower 30s for the Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, just above zero. Teens for the southwest coast. And then the highs, lower 20s to upper 30s for the Panhandle, upper teens to mid-20s south central Alaska, still below zero in the Copper River Basin.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to the first line weather graphic for Saturday morning. Marginal VFR, Arctic coast, but just about all of interior Alaska VFR. The exception being along the west coast there, and especially the southwest coast with IFR, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta Coast, Nunivak Island, the Pribilofs, and then back into the western Aleutians, and then some toward kind of in between, well, from Nikolsky to just about to Atka IFR, and Chiniak, Marmot Bay, Kodiak Island, Ozinki, Fognak Island IFR as well, and it looks like a possible IFR there in Kachemak Bay, and then marginal VFR for all of Cook Inlet and the southern Susitna Valley. And for the afternoon Saturday, we've got conditions improving there for Cook Inlet becoming VFR. Kachemak and Kamishak Bays down to Fognak Island, Shelikof Strait, marginal up the east side of the Kenai Peninsula, actually into the central Kenai Peninsula, possibly to eastern Turnagain Arm, and mostly south of Prince William Sound, staying VFR, safe for Passage Canal, over to Valdez, Cordova, of course, and the Panhandle stays VFR, marginal VFR increasing over the north slope and central eastern Arctic coast, and out now we've got VFR along and off the coast there, into the eastern Bering, still marginal for St. Lawrence Island, the Pribilofs, but a lot of IFR for the Aleutians and southern southwest Bering Sea with IFR up to southern Kodiak Island. Sunday morning, all of Kodiak's IFR, especially the south side of the Alaska, central eastern Alaska Peninsula and Aleutian Range, Kamishak Bay, IFR, Kachemak Bay, marginal, and Resurrection Bay, call it marginal VFR, but Prince William Sound VFR right on down the southeast coast. The interior again stays VFR, maybe some marginal stuff up over the north slope to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Point Barrow VFR. And Togiak Bay to the Pribilofs, eastern Aleutians, just about all of the Aleutians IFR, but conditions better up over the northern Bering. And then on Sunday, that IFR band rotates northward back along the southwest coast there, Nunivak Island, dropping back into the central Aleutians, but VFR, south side of that system, breaking out over the Pribilof Islands and north side of the Alaska Peninsula, possibly Bristol Bay, but IFR hanging in over the southwest mountains, Kodiak Island, and marginal for Kamishak Bay, or Kachemak Bay, and VFR Prince William Sound. Now the Panhandle IFR, southern Panhandle, becoming marginal VFR up to the north, and otherwise looking pretty good. And the Tuvik and Adigan, both VFR again tomorrow for your Saturday forecast. In fact, all the passes looking really good for the Alaska Range, wide open, Lake Clark and Merrill. Rainy, VFR, windy, VFR. Isabel, same forecast, VFR. And Nintasta, good VFR flying through tomorrow. And Tanita, VFR. Portage, VFR. And Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels at the surface just south of St. Matthew Island and across Cape Neuenam, northern Bristol Bay, then up Shelikof Strait across southern Kenai Peninsula, hugging the North Gulf Coast as it has just about all winter long here. And on the outer coastline of the Panhandle, 2,000 feet south of the area. Icing, look for possible considerable moderate, pretty isolated though, mostly just light to isolated, very isolated moderate rime or mixed icing there, Alaska Peninsula, east central Aleutians, and maybe some icing potential up across Kodiak Island, maybe into southern Cook Inlet and the western central Aleutians. Looking at the jet stream, the 18,000 foot wind flow chart here with the jet stream wind speed maxes on there. We've got, the jet's well south of the area, and weakening high pressure holding, though, through tomorrow over the northern interior into the Mackenzie River Delta. And easterlies there, Alaska Peninsula 65 to 70 knots, and then west-northwest jet max there about 70 knots off the south coast of the Panhandle with pretty light flow, as you can see, over the interior. And at 9,000 feet, a little bit more of a breeze there over the southwest part of the state, across the Aleutian Range, Kamishak Gap area, 55 knots out of the southeast, east-southeast 55 knots there north of the Fox Islands, but light winds for the Panhandle, and again the interior, 3,000 feet shaping up like this. Easterlies, or east-southeasterlies, 55 knots coming across northeast Bristol Bay, Kamishak Bay there, and even stronger there over the Alaska Peninsula, 60 knots, and about 35 central Bering Sea, light everywhere else. And turbulence-wise, looking at widespread moderate chop, southern Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, Kodiak Island, northern Panhandle, and the western Arctic coast southward to about Point Hope. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecast.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. He is here and has been here many times to talk to us about weather satellites and how those can help Alaskans understand our weather, how we can do better detection, keep more people safe from things even like volcanic ash. But today, Eric, you're going to talk to us a little bit more about weather satellites and how that can keep Alaskans safe and protect our property from wildfire, right?
That's right, Dave. Today's topic is where there's smoke, there's fire. And thanks for having us back again to Alaska
Anytime.
Weather. Well, weather satellites have a lot of different instruments on them. It turns out that the electromagnetic spectrum has a lot going on in it, and only one part of that is visible light, what we see.
Right.
Weather satellites, of course, report that. Today's topic is wildfires.
Okay.
There are some people who say that in Alaska in the summertime you don't have severe weather. These people are usually from Oklahoma or somewhere, and F5 tornadoes tend not to occur in Alaska.
Right.
People have also said what we do have in the summer. What is Alaska's severe summer weather can be hydrology,
Right.
flash flood and erosion in the mountains and things like that, and fires, wildfires.
Absolutely.
Those were here in 2004, certainly remember that. We've got an example here from 2014. Now it was a quiet season overall, but in May, down on the Kenai Peninsula, we had a wildfire on the Funny River, and this is a satellite image from a polar orbiter that went right over Alaska, and we can see the plume of smoke coming out of that fire on the Kenai, curling down. It's caught in the wind.
Right.
It goes down toward Kodiak Island, curves around. You can see it circulating around a low pressure system that's in the Gulf of
It was
Alaska.
a beautiful picture.
Oh my gosh.
Except there was a fire.
There's a fire there. The nice thing is with this satellite image, you can tell where the fire origin is, where
Right.
the smoke is coming from. And it's a color image. We're looking at the wavelength spectrum of about 0.4 to 0.7 micrometers or microns. That's what the human eye would see. If you were riding on the satellite and looked down, you could see this kind of an image.
Right.
So that's pretty nice. But it turns out there's more to the electromagnetic spectrum than just visible light.
Okay.
You've heard of infrared, ultraviolet, that kind of thing. If we move into longer wavelengths, let's go to one specifically, 3.7 micron.
Okay, 3.7.
Why worry about that one? Well, we've got an example here. 3.7, it turns out, happens to be very sensitive to a certain temperature range, temperatures where fires burn.
Okay.
And so we've got an example zoomed in a little more from that same Funny River fire down on the Kenai Peninsula, and we can see that you get up into a few hundred degrees Fahrenheit,
Right.
and that's where the colors are. We can see there on the Funny River fire to the west and to the east, almost a horseshoe shape there, is not only we're seeing where the fire is in a general sense, but specifically where it's the active fire
That is where
front.
it's burning right now.
And it's
Amazing.
3.7 microns is the important temperature there.
Okay.
That's right.
So this is really important to firefighters on the ground, people that are making plans and directing the firefighters on where they need to go and cut the trenches and keep people safe.
You know it. If you want to fight that fire, you got to know where it is.
Okay.
You got to know the leading edge. We've also got a movie loop, nothing quite like animating it in time.
Yeah.
You can see the fire spreading out over time with a succession of film or a succession of images. Now this is one channel, 3.7 micron. You know, we looked at that color smoke image before.
Right.
And that's actually a red, a green, and a blue. That's how you get color imagery. What if you took 3 different wavelengths in the infrared? You went from like 2.2 micron, 1.5 micron, up to 3.7. You mix them together, you get this other kind of color image, which is even a better way to sharply bring out the details of where that leading edge of the fire is.
Okay.
You'll note, though, in the infrared, guess what? We don't see the smoke. That's too bad. And on these movie loops, you can see the clouds go by. These channels can't see through clouds. The lesson is there's no one perfect solution. You got to have the visible, you got to have some of that infrared single 3.7 channel, some of the infrared mixing to help get a different perspective. Another one, we've talked before about a fun channel called the day-night band.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and in Alaska in the winter, it's great. We've got all this darkness. The day-night band is so sensitive to seeing light. You can see features that otherwise aren't available. Now in Alaska, when you have a forest fire, it tends to be light out all the time.
Right.
It's our summer. But we can go down south to the Rim Fire in California in 2013. Now, okay, it was in California, not Alaska, but Alaskan crews went down to fight that fire, so we
Fair
can
enough.
talk about it here on Alaska Weather. Here we have a 3.7 micron channel shot of the rim fire, again, kind of a horseshoe shape, showing
Right.
that active fire front down there. And then we'll look again to the day-night band, the visible light, and then you can see how the fire is all bright. You can see the active fire front and actually the city lights over there too. Turns out that the cities, while they're active in a social sense, are not really hot in a fire sense. So they don't show up in the 3.7 micron. They're not hot like a fire is, but the fire in the cities look the same from a visible light perspective. And a fun thing here too is that we can see the smoke plume going north from the rimfire on the day-night band. So if we were ever to have, like in 2004 in Alaska, you get dark at night, we still had an active fire season that year.
Right.
That was, that really bad year. The day-night band didn't exist then, but if we had fires now in August, we could use it then. The lesson here is weather satellites, they offer many different wavelengths of light. Some are used for different purposes, and some of these we just looked at tonight are especially helpful here in Alaska to find and to track the behavior of these wildfires so the crews can go out there and do their jobs.
Sure. So a satellite toolbox for the firefighting crews and the fire weather forecasters, and it just underlines how important satellites are, especially for Alaska and our mission for the National Weather Service to protect life and property, and also to enhance the national economy. So wonderful stuff there, Eric. And people can look at pictures like this anytime by going to gina.alaska.edu. You'll find images there all around Alaska at various times of the year, and not just about fire weather, but volcanic ash and smoke and anything else you want to check out. They're always beautiful pictures and always interesting to look at no matter what time of the day. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We appreciate it and welcome you back anytime. For this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder. See you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Looks like south of St. Matthew Island there, and a little bit of thinner ice on the south and southwest side of Nunivak Island, south side of St. Lawrence Island, pretty common feature. And then a narrow band of, looks like a little bit of a break there along the southwest coast, and kind of hit and miss on into Bristol Bay with the heaviest ice there up into the northeast. And now a little bit more ice south of south of the Forelands in Cook Inlet, and just a little bit of expansion there in Kachemak Bay, but not too much. On to the coastal water forecast. Winds out of the east all along the coastline. For the south coast out of the east, 25 knots, small craft advisories there. North coast east at 20, and Lynn Canal still hanging on to the winds tomorrow, but slowly coming down. High wind warning still going near Skagway, but marine-wise, Lynn Canal tomorrow, north sustained 30, gust 45, Stevens Passage north 20, Clarence Strait east at 15. And for Sunday, north winds down to 15 knots now for Lynn Canal, and just 10 knots in Stevens Passage with pretty slight seas. Southeast 20 for Clarence Strait. And looks like some gale warnings there along the south central coast, at 35 knots from the southeast. Otherwise, east 30 knots on the north coast, east 13 to 14 feet. Prince William Sound, light winds tomorrow, out of the northeast at 10 with 2-foot seas. Small craft advisories, North Gulf Coast, east winds 25 to 30 knots, 13-foot seas. Small crafts also for the Barren Islands, east winds at 30. Gale warnings, Kamashack Bay, northeast 35, and southern Cook Inlet, small craft advisories, northeast at 30. Northern Cook Inlet, northeast at 20. And that holds pretty much stationary status quo north of the Forelands on Sunday. But gale warnings now for southern Cook Inlet into Kachemak Bay, or Kamashack Bay, not Kachemak Bay, and the Barren Islands east 35 knots for gales also. And seas running 11 to 15 feet, 8 feet in southern Cook Inlet, and the North Gulf Coast, small craft advisories, east winds 30 knots with 15 to 16-foot seas, and Prince William Sound, northeast at 15. And for Kodiak Island, Chillicothe Strait, east 35, that's good for gale warnings. Otherwise, small craft advisories for the remainder of the island out of the east at 30 knots. And then big increase in the wind, Sitkanack to Castle Cape, east 45 knots. Storm warnings for the Alaska Peninsula, east winds 50 to 55 knots. And gales for Bristol Bay, east coming up to 40 knots with 8-foot seas. Those back down to 25 knots out of the east for Bristol Bay on Sunday. And south to southeast winds 25 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. Castle Cape to Sitkanack up the east side of Kodiak Island. Winds will be southerly at 20 knots with seas just under 20 feet. Chillicothe Strait, small craft advisories for east winds at 25 knots. Western Aleutians, Kiska to Shimianatu, gale warnings, north 35 knots tomorrow, 22-foot seas, small craft advisories, Amchitka Island. And then, depending on what side of the islands you're on, for Adak and Atka, you have gales on the Bering Sea side, northeast 35, and then northeast 20 on the Pacific side. And then storm warnings, east 50 knots on Alaska Island, Unmak Island, northeast 45 knots, 20 to 26 foot seas. And gale warnings for the Fox Islands on Sunday for 35 knot winds, otherwise Adak and Atka, north to northwest 30 to 40 knots. Gale warnings from Chitka Island, north 35 and northwest at 30 for the western Aleutians. And for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, full gales, east 45 knots, 12 foot seas, northeast 45 for the Pribilofs of seas near 20 feet. St. Matthew Island, east 30 knots, 10 foot seas, and the Yukon Delta Coast, brisk wind advisory for east winds at 25, 20 knots out of the northeast for Norton Sound, at 30 knots out of the northeast for St. Lawrence Island. That holds through Sunday for Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island. Yukon Delta Coast, brisk wind advisories continue, east at 30, small craft advisories for the Kuskokwim Delta Coast, east 25, northeast 40, St. Matthew Island, and east at 30 for the Pribilofs with 15-foot seas. Eastern Boulevard Seacoast for Saturday, north 10 to 15 knots, 20 knots on the central coast, brisk wind advisories for the western Arctic coast all the way down to Wales for north to northeast winds 25 to 30 knots. And gale warnings now for Sunday. For the area from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, northeast 35 knots. Otherwise, brisk wind advisories there for the western Arctic coast and the southeast Chukchi Sea to Wales, and northeast 20 knots, central and eastern coastline. For tonight, maybe some flurries there on the western Arctic coast. Snow and blowing snow winter storm warning tonight for St. Lawrence Island and the Bering Strait coast for near zero visibilities, blowing snow and gusty winds. Rain and wind on the increase, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and to a lesser extent Kodiak Island, and stays dry tomorrow. Look for an increase in cloud southern panhandle for the southeast coast, and there it is on Sunday. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.